more or less like you guys. I mean, I care a lot about social justice and the poor, and we might, you know, I'm more of a libertarian, so I might have some differences of opinion about the best way to get there. But, you know, Trump is like obviously not somebody I relate to in any way on a personal level. But I don't think his policies were all that bad.
I think he has no ism, right? Like he doesn't have any ideology. He's about him in the moment. Right. Any given moment. And whoever is the most recent person of substance and wealth to whisper in his ear is sort of like the direction that he'll go. So that could be better. It could end up being better, like with something maybe we'll get clemency and pardons for people that we otherwise wouldn't in some regard. But it could be worse, because then you've got people like Miriam Adelson that are basically steering him in this Zio-Nazi direction.
Right.
And then the other thing you have to remember about Trump is that because he's not ideological, he's more inclined to end up doing something almost by accident that's truly a benefit to the greater good. Just the fact that he has a reverence for the Kennedys and the fact that he has RFK's son by his side, and he's like, oh, you totally want to get rid of the crap in our food? That's fine. Go ahead and do it. Just the fact that that's happening, the fact that that has become sort of a class consciousness now, where people are literally talking about, hey, do you ever look at the label of the potato chips that you eat every day? You probably should, because you would be really shocked at just how much that contributes to your overall health. And so that in itself, I think, is a natural positive effect that if it was Kamala or anybody else, if it was a GOPer or a Democrat, Trump is a truly unique, maybe if it was Bernie, but even then I'm not 100% sure. Trump is just such a wild card. You just don't know. And I think in that regard, it is a positive. Now, will it last? And the reason I mention that is obviously we're going to get into Luigi Mangione, but of course, one of the main reasons you came on in the first place, you know, way back when, was because of the fact that you are Palestinian and you have lived this nightmare as so many other people have. And now with the prospect of Trump coming in and knowing this sort of unholy alliance with the Christian right, because obviously we have an even bigger, I shouldn't even say it's much bigger, but we have a bigger problem with Christian Zionists in this country. Look no further than Mike Huckabee, who I think is a perfect spokesperson for the evangelical right, who expect to see the end times in their lifetime, or it's like they're clamoring for it. So they have this, this unholy alliance with Mr. Netanyahu, who is the biggest war criminal walking the earth right now. And so I'm going to play this quick clip that I caught the other day, which is in regards to a documentary that's being made about him right now. So let's take a look at that, and definitely want to get your thoughts on where things are going, especially in lieu of what's happening in Syria right now.
Extraordinary new documentary that offers an in-depth look into the charges against Netanyahu, featuring leaked footage of police interrogations of Netanyahu himself, his wife Sarah, and those accused of bribing him.
Strictly speaking, this is a film about corruption, and it starts with petty corruption, being bribed with gifts and cigars, champagne, jewelry. But then the ultimate corruption is how he's tried to elude a reckoning for his misdeeds. And in so doing, he wraps himself in the mantle of prime minister and then wages endless war. Now, I can't think of really anything more corrupt than somebody who's administering the killing of women and children in order to be able to stay in power.
Yeah. Yeah, that sums it up. I mean, I'd say that's who he is. That's what he's trying to do. He wants to distract from the fact he has all these problems politically, and he wants to keep this war going for that reason. And I don't know. I want to say that ethically, you're almost a better person if you actually believe that the people pose a danger. But I don't know. Like, that's neither here nor there. I mean, he's just an awful person. I think he might be the most dangerous person on the face of the earth right now.
I think he's the number one person liable to drop a nuke. If you ask me, who is the world leader that would most likely drop a nuclear weapon if they were backed into a corner, I have no doubt that he is the one who is the most dangerous.
Yes. No, I mean, absolutely. And I struggled a lot with the issue of, who I wanted to win. Obviously, who I want to win wasn't even an option. I ended up voting for Jill Stein, but, I just couldn't bring myself to vote for either of the major candidates. But I had a preference for Trump Again, not because I love him, but because I just couldn't bear to watch the administration, someone from the administration who's been basically enabling a genocide become president. I think you can't do that. And as you know, as many terrible things as Trump has said, and as much as he sidles up to Miriam Adelson, we just don't know. And that's better than Kamala, who's shown she's just going to keep this going.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that, you know, when we see videos like that, the only thing I want people to be like, we have to be cautious of is this is not a Netanyahu problem. Yes, he is absolutely disgusting and corrupt, and he should get it, whatever is coming to him. And he is keeping this going because of that. But at this point, and quite honestly, from the beginning days of the state of Israel, this was their intent. So whether or not it was him there or it was someone else, the project for Greater Israel, which is really what they're trying to achieve, that was always the goal. And if anything, the people that are in, you know, the other party people in his party and his cabinet, they wouldn't stop this. They wouldn't stop this. This just worked out conveniently that it was able to be sort of on him, since he could go down with the whole thing because of all his, you know, legal charges anyway. But these people would be doing it without him.
Right. Right.
And then you look at what's going on, you know, regarding this. You know, you had the whole consensus over the past few years from this sort of I think there is a difference between the populist right and the conservative right. I do think that the conservative right recognizes that the energy, the enthusiasm behind Trump is really from the populist right, and they're just trying to catch the wave in that regard. But when you get right down to it, I look at somebody, as you alluded to, you know, we are very civil libertarian in a lot of ways. That's why, you know, I mean, you can look at like a lot of different people who are in the independent media space that say that they're libertarian. I think that Dave Smith, who obviously has a very big following, especially because of his relationship with Joe Rogan, really has a very good idea of exactly where everything is at. He's also Jewish like Jen is, and he's spoken about his experiences of what that's like growing up in a similar environment. And then who I would classify as the conservative right is somebody like Ben Shapiro, who people kind of pretend is like some type of populist right-leaning person, but he's not. He's crazy. Like, he's a crazy Zio-Nazi as far as I'm concerned. And when I think about the energy of where people want to go, I think it's more towards Dave Smith and not towards Ben Shapiro. What do you think?
I think so. I mean, I base a lot of my opinions about trends on what I see on Twitter. So I'm never sure if it's indicative of sort of the real world or not, but that's what seems to be happening. I'm just seeing more and more of it. And I mean, I frame a lot of my criticism as like, why are our politicians declaring their allegiance to Israel? They should be, you know, interested in America, you know, and yeah, exactly, of course. And what, you know, the money that's being spent on Israel could be spent here. And like, you know, I come at this very much from a sort of Palestinian human rights perspective. My family's there, so I care a lot about it. But I get that framing might be the best way to reach certain populations. And I have a large following from like libertarian right-leaning people. And I think that that's something that that maybe an argument that might appeal to them a little bit more.
My last point on this is, obviously with everything that's going on right now, and we're trying to figure out if there's a consensus to sort of end this genocide, which is absolutely insane on its face, the fact that it's still happening. But I'm wondering, based on what's happening, particularly in Syria right now, is Israel overextending themselves, going into all of these different places? Like, is it conceivable that perhaps they're going to bite off more than they can chew?
You know, my military expertise is limited. I don't know. My sort of take on it is that the U.S. will continue to just give them money to do whatever they want. I mean, there's never been any limitations. They've never, like, if you told me 18 months ago that Israel would be able to bomb Gaza nonstop for 15 months and kill probably 100,000 or more people, including, you know, 40,000 or so children, and the world would just let that happen and the United States would continue to fund it, I wouldn't have believed you. And
well, it doesn't happen often that we get a Zio in here, but we do have a Zio here who says that without Israel, there's no safe place for Jews. And of course, this is in the
Middle East.
It's
okay. Well,
it's almost like assuming that there is no such thing as anything prior to October 7th, 2023, just like there is nothing prior to 1948.
Can I say, Ari, Ari, seriously, start deprogramming. Start the process. Deprogram yourself, man. Free yourself. Free yourself from that. It's not true.
Also, if you feel so safe, then why are you bombing Gaza? Like, it's either one or the other.
bombing a pretty much an unarmed population on top of it.
Yes, a trapped, unarmed population. And I don't ever want to hear again about how Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2005. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Gaza has no control over its borders, its airspace. If you know, like, Gazans have no freedom to move in and out. If you have cancer, you can't necessarily get the medication you need. If you want to go to school.
Kind of like here in the United States.
Well, that's true, but it's not quite as bad.
Okay, so this not only is untrue, but it's dangerous. It's a very dangerous concept to put out there that Israel is the only place that's safe for Jews, because it's completely the opposite. Israel is actually what's making Jews unsafe across the whole world.
Of course.
So, until you recognize that by standing on someone else's neck, you're basically putting everybody at risk by doing that. Like, you're just not grasping this concept. Jews are not safe in Israel, which is why they're fleeing. And I can tell you that because they're coming to Florida in droves. Yeah. And this is my personal immigration crisis that we are having, is there are a whole bunch of genocidal lunatics that are welcome here with open arms, as if there's nothing wrong with that. And then they're scared about Haitians.
Yeah.
Please. I haven't met a genocidal Haitian. So that's not my concern.
For everybody who is at the Cato Institute and the Heritage Foundation, any of these hard right, hard line immigration status supporters, you should have the same fervor for the Israelis that are coming over here. And they're probably not even getting screened. They're just being kind of like...
Because they're white and wealthy. Honestly, it's so disgusting to me. But that's when people say, oh, Israel's so great for Jews. Yeah. Tell everybody down at my Club Pilates studio, and then maybe they'll go home. Okay? Because as far as I can tell, they're not feeling so safe there.
Yeah.
You don't have the watermelon earrings.
I know. I was watermelon earrings. When I go to Pilates, I always wear watermelon t-shirts because I feel like I'm playing psychological warfare with the, I call it little Tel Aviv that hangs out at the Pilates studio. And it's so unfortunate. Like, it's really bad. It's bad here. Yeah. We're having an infestation.
All right. I don't want this to turn into like a lengthy draw because we have other things covered, but this is the answer that Ari gives. So my parents had to flee Egypt to safety to Israel. That's why it's so important to us.
But why?
Yeah.
Do you know why? Look into why, Ari. Because the only reason that happened was because empire forced all those neighboring Arabic countries to expel the Jews and do that because they were trying to create the Zionist state. People like Avishlam, who have written about this extensively, that were Mizrahi Jews from places like Iraq and Syria and wherever, were expelled because of what the Zionists were forcing the empire to do. That is why. And Egypt is a tool of empire. That has nothing to do with Palestinians.
Yeah. Game, set, match. And so, of course, okay, you know what? You see, Jen, every time you do it, you figure out a way to convert another because you are from the world.
I know. I was raised to believe that stuff too, but I kid you not. Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia are tools of empire.